So I think there's an interesting part of the reserve currency that's different from what used to be true, which is that now it also has to act as a global unit of account. So we need to be able to recognize prices in various currencies. All countries need to recognize the whatever the unit of account is of that reserve currency, which I think is why intuitively many people just say, well, it can't be the Chinese yuan because we can't get enough yuan to pay for stuff, the reverse of that current balance account. So I think it goes back to this question, this notion of, what's going to happen to the US debt? What is the alternative to the global reserve currency? Because if you can now disentangle the reserve currency from being the military economic superpower, because what you need to have is this financial superpower aspect where you can still be the unit used to price goods, even though you don't have that military superpower anymore, people still need your currency, which means people will still keep buying your debt long after the next country might have risen, which would then mean that the debt could continue on in a very sort of weird zombie way, because you still continue to provide the global unit of account, which is sort of a strange thought, right? Because it's really that global aspect, those financial market aspects, is a new aspect in this world.
Let me again just sort of focus on what I'm confused about. There's a way to think of it as just a unit of account, and then there's a way to think of it as, let's say, entangled with the U.S. as this military superpower and all these things, and it's very, very complicated how we separate these out. And then there are all these different, dimensions and versions of this. So I think one specific version of this is always this, and this is just a very concrete version. I can't even figure this one out. Is when oil is priced in dollars. Is that just a unit of account, or is that this unbelievably profound geopolitical thing? So in some sense, it's just a unit of account because you just need to get a dollar the minute before you buy the oil, and then Saudi Arabia can trade the dollar back into something else the minute after it sells the oil. And then in practice, we had, I know we had this whole thing called petrodollars, and then they flowed to US money center banks, and then the Saudi and the Middle East states, they were all pegged to the dollar. Would Saudi Arabia ever break it? And this would be like a giant geopolitical move for them to do this, and they still have not done that. I want to say it was Saddam Hussein who got rid of the dollar, but it was like about a year before he got invaded in Iraq by Bush 43. And so, if you even saying you'll take euros, you'll not take dollars, you want euros, ended up having these really crazy repercussions. And then that's just the oil version. I don't know. The U.S. is a really crazy, exceptional country. It is a one-of-a-kind country, and there are things about that are. I always like to push back on exceptionalism. I think it's deeply unhealthy because it means we can't think about it, because it's all these it ends up being all these weird narratives where it's one of a kind. But my bias would probably, if you held a gun to my head, my intuition would be it is linked to all these weird forms of American exceptionalism rather than just a silly accounting convention. And that's why we're not going to replace it with a Zambian kwacha or whatever anytime soon.